After the assassination attempt on President Trump on Saturday, Elon Musk officially endorsed them. Today, we'll discuss what this endorsement will mean for Tesla stock and the business. Why did stock indexes jump to new heights with Dow Jones rising 200 points? And why did Tesla stock itself also see a jump overnight by 5% to now over $260 per share? We'll also discuss what Elon is doing for his own security. We'll watch a video of when he said he's already had 2 attempts on his own life in the past 8 months. In other news, Elon announced that a new Tesla Model 3 long-range rear-wheel drive is now available in the US. This is actually the mythical $35,000 vehicle that can get 363 miles of range. Jeff Lutz is joining us today. Jeff is a multi-decade supply chain executive and chief quality officer. Now he's the CEO of his own manufacturing consulting firm. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Hey, Herbert. It's great to be with you. There's a lot going on. It's an unbelievable weekend.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's definitely unbelievable. Obviously, we are all watching with horror of what happened to President Trump. But this is, the related news for Tesla and Elon. He came out and he said, I fully endorse President Trump and hope for his rapid recovery. Okay, and that's the video that Elon did share. And some of these photos is just pretty incredible. Here's the bullet flying. You got Trump bleeding. And then you got him, this iconic photo that's going to come out there. But Elon came out and said, he supports Trump. What's your comments on that?
Yeah, and it looks like there's even some more breaking news this morning of, some of the, like one of the big cases, I guess the documents case against him, the judge just ordered that's dropped. I think, stepping back, we're going to get into Tesla for a bit, but you just step back. This definitely changes a lot of hopefully for the better, the political landscape in the country. Hopefully this is an opportunity to kind of detune and kind of tamper down the rhetoric. And really just get back to policies and like what affects people in their homes and their daily lives, and less about like all this other stuff happening. But this is could be a very big thing for Tesla. Obviously, I think Elon. I think there was a timing element to when he would endorse a presidential candidate. Obviously, he's seen as a very large global figure, richest man or richest person in the world. And, it's obviously a big deal, his endorsement. And from many reasons, besides that, it's also his companies and the technology he works on and what kind of he honestly has his own platform. People try to put Elon in one box, but he doesn't fit in any of those boxes. You have somebody who's arguably doing more for the environment than any one single human on the planet. And, but people are trying to put him in, one box, left, right, or what have you. So I do think that there are a number of implications. Obviously, the markets reacted to the situation, and, President Trump kind of emerged from the situation. It's obviously a very scary situation. And he, former President Trump emerged kind of like as showing his strength, his determination, and he got the endorsement of Elon, and he also had the well wishes of many business leaders, which I thought was great to see. The likes of Jeff Bezos, Tim Cook, and others who are obviously wishing the former president well. The current president eventually came out and spoke out against it in multiple addresses to the nation, which I thought was a good thing as well. So in terms of, where does it go from here? Obviously, you've seen the markets react this morning. And what I think the markets are reacting to is, the higher likelihood that, he may become president. What does that presidency mean? Well, that presidency, his platform is the highest order bit for markets is deregulation, and what his presidency represents in terms of multiple industries and in further deregulation of those industries. You remove regulations, you remove roadblocks to create revenue. You also could, if you do it the wrong way, you could be also harming safety mechanisms that protect consumers as well. So you have to be careful with how you do it. But he's generally, a downward trajectory person on regulation. And then of course taxes. He has a big platform around reducing corporate taxes. This has another implication on companies as well versus taxing them further. You can, we can debate this. Each one of these could be a multi-hour show to debate. But the data that he's running on is that when they reduce taxes from companies, they actually were able to get more revenue into into the country. There's more tax revenue actually taken versus companies being more selective about their investments and consumers being more selective about their investments and spending going down. So there's this counter argument of less tax. Does less taxes mean more activity in the economy or less? How do you find the right line? So less taxes, less regulation. And then on EVs, I think, if you remember the first Trump presidency back in 2016, that was a very different Elon, and that was a very different time in terms of the ramp up of EVs. It's 2016. Actually, there's only the Model S out, and the Model X was introduced at some point that year, but in very low volume. So Tesla is, not a very high volume manufacturer at that point in time. And then there was a business council he's trying to, influence the president and so forth. I don't think it went well, by the way. And I think, they decided to part ways from a policy perspective. And you've heard some very quite, negative things from former President Trump on EVs. By the way, both presidents don't really address EVs accurately. I would say, Herbert. And so, and I would say the current president, obviously he came into office, he had an EV summit, he excluded Tesla, and just that whole approach. And then just saying GM's the leader, like this was just like, everybody could kind of see through this as like, this is a union thing. This is a, you scratch my back. Nobody likes that, because at the end of it, we can look back on it now 3 years later with historical context and say that, those companies didn't produce anything meaningful over the last 3 years. With all this talk about EVs and so forth, they're still only doing a couple thousand per quarter, whereas Tesla has grown to significant heights. So both presidents kind of get it wrong on EVs. I hope Elon, if Elon is going to be in some sort of more greater or advisory role in this administration, maybe there can be different context around it. I don't know. I think, that's a wait and see, but I think we're going to go through an important video later about, Elon's thoughts on subsidies and are they needed? And I think one of the key takeaways for Tesla investors, people that follow the company, is I think Elon has positioned the company in a way where it's agnostic to these subsidies. If the subsidies are there and then Tesla will take advantage of them. Because if every other company has the same crack at those subsidies related to EVs, and Tesla will take advantage of them, they'll probably do a better job of taking advantage of them. But they've set their company up where they don't need those subsidies. They don't need them for auto. They don't need them for charging. And I think that's a big takeaway, I think, for people.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about the IRA, what will happen to that later. And then we'll talk about Tesla, Elon's own security and his comments on that. But so the market reacted, Tesla stock, how do they expect, or should we expect about the impact to Tesla stock ongoing? Right now, you've got President Trump and Biden, both anti-EV, and they're making that rhetoric. But at the same time, you've got Trump saying, hey, I don't need the IRA. I'm going to remove that, more likely. But Elon's okay with that, as you saw, or you'll say. But also, people that think that Elon and Trump are actually closer friends, friendlier together, and maybe Elon kind of heard something. I don't know. There's some rumor about Trump is much more of a proponent of full self-driving, but I don't know how.
Well, so Trump has gone to SpaceX. He viewed the human launch, the first human launch of SpaceX. So he did a speech after it commending Elon and the team. I don't think Biden, I think you're just circling back here, but I don't think Biden is anti-EV. He's anti-Tesla, and he really doesn't have a position. Yeah, no, he doesn't really have a position other than help the companies that have unions formed make more product. So it's the IRA isn't all bad, but that's one thing. There's one other thing that the markets are reacting to, and that's Bitcoin. And this is something that Trump has changed from his prior platform to the new one. He wants to be known as the Bitcoin, digital currency president, but not regulated by the government, regulated, by the people. And the Bitcoins is just skyrocketing today. So,
Okay.
So
Let's
a number
take a
of
look
things
at
happening.
this is Forbes, the way that they've covered this. Tesla's boosts stocks to record highs as markets react to Trump's assassination attempt. Stock indexes jumped let's see here, since after Saturday, and then the Dow Jones rose 200 points, and the S&P jumped 0.4%, and Nasdaq joint jumped 0.6%.
These are one day. These are one day things. Yeah.
Then you got Tesla was one of the most notable risers, and it went up 5% to $260, and it's actually currently right now at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific time. It's out there right now, so it went about $10, and it's up. So this is Musk officially endorsed Trump. Analysts believe a Trump win in November can help Tesla, as his proposed tariffs on Chinese imports, that's another one we didn't talk about, should help Tesla maintain its dominant share in the U.S. And then overseas,
let's talk about that.
Okay, go ahead.
We missed probably the two most important points, or two very important points. Why is Tesla stock going up? It's a one day thing. You can never really know what's happening with the stock in one day, but there could be one reason could be, are all the investigations and blockage that the current Biden administration does against Tesla and Elon companies. Elon is being actively investigated by multiple, 3-letter agencies or multiple letter agencies out of under this current administration. He's being investigated. If you look at, there's articles on this about some of the pettiest things, about even like what color shirts are being worn, in the Tesla factories, and why is there one color versus another, and so forth. And these are investigations happening by the government. You had the FCC, the contract that was given by the government to Starlink on the order of $900 million, that was reversed later on. But there's no other solution ready to go and deploy other than Starlink. But they removed that contract from Starlink and Elon. And there's just literally multiple examples, the bird's nest and the turtles with the SpaceX launch. Like, some of this is noise that would happen, I think, regardless of any president that's in office. But it seems like there are multiple agencies that are actively investigating. So if you're Elon, and the rumor started before, obviously, the terrible events of this weekend, I think, a day before, there was rumors about him, contributing to a super PAC that would support. and the reason is he's been put in a situation where there's one president who I think I can influence and work with, and there's another president that just nonstop actively investigating. So that's one thing. And then the tariff thing is going to need some time to play out. But Trump is former President Trump's definitely known as kind of the tariff president. But there are pros and cons to this approach. We can have an entire show on this approach. All I will tell you is the current U.S. auto industry, without any tariff protection, will cease to exist within a decade. Mm-hmm. And if you look at what's happening in China right now, if they were to just be able to go unencumbered, and you look at the amount of state sponsorship that's occurring with Chinese companies and their ability to get their costs lower and to export, they have done things over the last decade. It's not that they're just being subsidized by their government. I want to be very clear. They have done the right things at the mineral level all the way through their supply chain to put them in a position to be the low-cost producer. And yes, there are things going on with state sponsorship, but China has done the right thing from a government perspective to set themselves up to be the EV leader. And if the U.S. doesn't protect themselves, they will be in trouble. The viewers should know this. Tariffs are in place in many countries all over the world. China had auto tariffs on U.S. made autos even before the U.S. put reciprocal tariffs, which I think started in 2017 under Trump, back onto China. They were like, I think we were tariffing them at like 2.5%, and they had tariffs upwards of 15 to 20% on our vehicles. So the tariff thing's going to need some time to play out. It's generally not a good thing for consumers, but it will protect an industry. The U.S. auto industry has about 3 million U.S. jobs attached to it. So something needs to be done. And they also need to cut off what's going on in Mexico right now. Right now, 1 in 3 GM and Ford vehicles are actually produced in Mexico. Most of their EV production actually comes out of Mexico. And we have to be careful about the beachheads that are being set up in Mexico and then coming into the U.S. through NAFTA. So I think that a Trump administration would look at that and look at a different way. And by the way, the current administration has also increased tariffs on Chinese imports. So both kind of have a similar kind of approach actually forming. This is something where they're actually not too far apart. So that's another thing I think, Mark, that will have Tesla implications and EV implications.
Okay. Let's talk about the importance of Elon Musk himself and his security. So this guy, Ian Miles Chung, says, please triple your protection, Elon. If they can come for Trump, they'll also come for you. Elon replied to him, said, dangerous times ahead. 2 people, separate occasions, have already tried to kill me in the past 8 months. They were arrested with guns about 20 minutes drive from Tesla headquarters. And then this other comment here that he had said this last month, I guess, at the annual shareholder meeting. We did have 2 homicidal maniacs in the last 7 months come to try and kill me and a bunch of other people. There wasn't an actual issue that they articulated. They were just in a homicidal maniac career. So first of all, this video shows you his security. So there are people out there, but I think we need and we want him to have more. Sorry. Yes. Okay. And then this is what he said.
Because I care about you as a person, but since this is a shareholder meeting, in the spirit of shareholder value.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the kind sentiments. Yeah, I think I probably need to like work out, and and like not get assassinated or something. I mean, it is getting a little crazy these days. Like to first approximation, the probability that a homicidal maniac will try to kill you is proportionate to how many homicidal maniacs hear your name. Okay. So they hear my name a lot. I'm like, okay, I'm on the list, So, yeah, so we actually did have 2 homicidal maniacs in the last roughly 7 months come to aspirationally try to kill me and a bunch of other people. So it's not just me. And there wasn't like an actual issue that they articulated. They were just, in the homicidal maniac career. So, so I do need to be kind of careful. Which is not great because it like forces me to be a bit more sort of standoffish, and like so now like I've like stopped signing things because just something. Because like that would be a sure way to like homicidal maniac. I'll just have to sign something and then shoot him, type of thing. So then I have to be like more standoffish and stuff, which I prefer not to be, but it seems wise. Like think of like John Lennon, who was like singing about like, hey, can't we all just be nice to each other? And then he got shot, by one of his fans. You're like, okay, we'll try to avoid that. So. Anyway, I appreciate the kind sentiments. I will endeavor to stay alive and keep, yeah. So.
Obviously, very, very serious. This is happening, and he's so important. We're concerned. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I have a lot actually on this one. So I was at that event he was speaking at. I was at the prior one, the Cybertruck event, where there was actually a threat that was handled a few days before the event. I won't describe the security for these events because I don't think it's appropriate to do. But what I will say is Tesla does a very good job of you can't just walk up to the building, especially for these events. There's a separate area where there's kind of multiple security checkpoints, and so Tesla does a good job. But and I was at that event where he said there was an issue, which was the Cybertruck event. And I've been at I've been at the events before that. I was at the AI Day and I was at the the semi truck event, and it was actually quite different. And I have a picture of him signing something just more than like a foot away from me, and just a crowd of people just kind of pushed towards the perimeter of the audience, and he interacts with them. He does a selfie, he does what have you, and because he wants to be with the fans, the shareholders, and he wants to interact with them. But he's realized obviously that obviously brings greater risk. But I think rest assured, like for the actual Tesla events, Tesla does a very good job with that. Doesn't mean the risk is zero. But in terms of his, and I've commented this on X as well, I do think first off, we don't know what his security budget is, and I think there's I don't know what the number is, and I wouldn't be an expert to know if that number is high enough or too low or what have you. But what you can think through is like, should there be kind of a separate review of how his security is handled, and maybe a panel, a commission of experts. This is something he knows how to do with everything else he does, whether it's rocket engine design or what have you, but to get some expertise in to really look at what's happening and are there better ways to tighten this up. So he literally, I think the objective, the vision should be is that he has the best security for any public or private person in the world because he deserves it. The threats are there. And I think it's something that the company should invest in. By the way, and people complain about all these billionaires doing private travel. This is one of the reason. Obviously, he does private jet travel. The other thing is obviously more efficient for his time. But these are the things that are required, and it's unfortunately this is the world. It's unfortunate this is the world we live in. But he needs security that is on the equivalent of greater, even greater than obviously the Secret Service we saw this weekend.
Yeah, we do. And people are crazy. Here's an example of what just happened yesterday.
Digga, euer Ernst? Alter, ihr seid richtig, ihr seid so krank. Richtig unnötig. Paul, kannst du die Polizei rufen, bitte? Paul, kannst du die Polizei rufen, bitte? Dieses Fahrzeug hier, wie?
So these are, in quotation marks, climate change activists attack a Tesla center in Hamburg, Germany, vandalize electric vehicles. It's like, yeah, there's so much hatred and misunderstanding, I suppose, but doesn't matter.
Not smart either. If you're gonna vandalize a stainless steel truck with glass, the paint's not going to stick to those substrates very well. They'll just power wash it off. But yeah, it's more of the message and what they're doing doesn't make sense, obviously, because if you look at what Tesla does for CO2 reduction globally, it doesn't pass the common sense test. It's more of this thing of kind of being anti-establishment, and Tesla is now becoming kind of an establishment EV producer, the greatest producer in the world, run by the richest man in the world. And so people, I guess, feel the need to speak out with that. Whereas when capital comes into Elon and Elon companies, he has one of the highest return on capital and investments of any entrepreneur, maybe in history. The history books will decide this 10 or 20 years from now. But be doing this, it doesn't pass the common sense test, but it usually doesn't.
Okay, so if you're a Tesla investor, if you agree and you want to have more security for Elon, Alexander Mertz put together this survey, and we're going to submit it to the Tesla's board of directors to support an increase in the security budget. So it's a letter, I won't read it here, but basically to the Tesla board of directors saying, hey, we want you to increase the security. Like you said, we're not sure if it's already high or low, but it's still something that shareholders are stepping up saying it's important. So Alexandra put this out there, and you got with over 90% and more than 3,000 participants wanting to support Tesla's board of directors to increase the security budget for Elon, the board members, the employees, and the sites. They set up the below letter. And so please, I'll put the link in the description. Click on this link, the Survey Monkey. It's very simple. It takes 30 seconds to fill that out. I just honestly just did it in 30 seconds. And it's open until just tomorrow, Tuesday. So please do that. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good message for the board to have. Again, I think it's more about the what. Like, we don't know what the budget is, but I think what we need is an external review of like, how does Elon get the best security in the world, and how do we make sure everybody that's related to his companies have adequate. Like I said, the Tesla sites do quite an admirable job of protecting their sites and so forth, but he should have the best protection in the world, bottom line. Whatever that costs, it costs. He should have the best protection in the world.
So back to the discussion about Trump and what happened to him, and if why the stock and the economy or the markets reacted to that. So one of the things is Trump thought, may remove the IRA, the investment, Inflation Reduction Act is misnamed, but of course it's $7,500 credit for purchase. Here's what Elon said in the past.
What about the support though for the charging network? I mean, there are parts of this bill and no.
No, I mean, do we need support for gas stations? We don't. So there's no need for this for support for a charging network. I would delete it. Delete.
Okay, all right.
I'm literally saying get rid of all subsidies, but also for oil and gas.
Yeah,
that's what's important,
right? So it was shocking that he actually said, actually, I don't want the government to give us credits for electric vehicles. But then he said, well, you should also not do it, because people don't realize that the incentive for oil and gas is like so much more, and for decades more than, and they don't realize that they've been doing that. So thoughts on that?
These are decisions that are made many years ago in a company around what are the economics that are required at scale to make this business successful, whether it's supercharging or whether it's automobiles. And I guarantee you the way Tesla thinks and the way Elon has the Tesla team thinking is your product should stand on its own and it should be profitable without any of these incentives or subsidies. And the decisions you make should underpin these. Now, once we're in kind of a subsidy world, and you have the whole the ZEV credit thing, and then you have the IRA, which there's a consumer element which Tesla doesn't see. Just to be clear, when you get a $7,500 credit back, obviously Tesla, the experience for the consumer is they drive off with a lower price vehicle, but that money doesn't actually flow into Tesla. What flows into Tesla is when they produce battery cells or they assemble them, they get and assemble the pack, they will get a credit for that as part of the IRA. But I believe the way Tesla builds, and there's also ones for supercharging and so forth, and I believe Tesla builds their supercharging business, their battery business, their auto assembly business to basically stand on their own without credits. And that's why, and he's also kind of pro, like, hey, we have too big of a budget, we're spending too much money as a country. And so his primary stance is like, don't do it for anyone. So how his ability to influence, if there is a future president, if Trump is the next President Trump, that will be interesting, because it would be more of like, how do we, can we reduce spending by reducing subsidies? So it turns it into like, okay, everybody's allowed to compete. As the government, we're not going to push EVs on you. We're not going to push combustion. Everybody can compete. And maybe the next administration can reduce spending by reducing subsidies across the board and not just in EV.
Mm-hmm. Okay. My quick comment, and then I'm going to play another clip of what Elon is saying, is that the thing is, you have to think about what's going on in China. I mean, China, they are absolutely not only doing massive incentives for EV, but they're disincenting the gas. And so they're going to leapfrog. And so, okay, I get that we want capitalism and all that done here, but you gotta compete. Okay, so you've got
that infrastructure bill for a second. Because sometimes the criticism of Tesla is like, hey, Tesla gets all these subsidies. But it's worth noting that for the vehicle purchase tax credit, the $7,500, Tesla stopped getting that like 2 years ago. So whereas everyone else, I think, except for GM, still gets the $7,500 tax credit. So all of our sales this year and I think last year had nothing to do with the tax credit because we were no longer eligible because we'd made so many electric cars. Tesla's made roughly 2/3 of all the electric cars in the United States. I'm not sure if most people are aware of that. So Tesla's made basically twice as many electric vehicles as the rest of industry combined. And we don't need the $7,500 tax credit. I would say, honestly, I would just can this whole bill. Don't pass it. That's my recommendation.
What about the support though for the charging network? I mean, there are parts of this bill. No.
Okay, so we actually already covered that part. Any comments on that additional context there?
He's built his product lines to not need the subsidies, and he's stressing it with the interviewer there. So I think that's the key takeaway. And I think Tesla is positioned without subsidies to compete. Now, to your point, we have to compete on a global stage. So if the government can incentivize mineral production, supply chain development, and localization of supply chain, if the government can do that in a thoughtful way, I think it makes sense. Like, I'm actually a proponent of the IRA, but what I don't like about the IRA is it turned into a lot of, there's called pork in the bill, where you're taking cars that have 7.5 kilowatt hour batteries and you're giving them the same credit as an EV with an 80 kilowatt hour battery. And so there's some of those things that don't pass the common sense test.
Okay. Oh, another massive news that after all this thing happened this weekend, people are just forgetting about it, not realizing it. I think it's a pretty big deal, which is Elon and Tesla announced that there's this brand new car, Model 3 long-range rear-wheel drive, that's now available in the US. And it's priced under $35,000 after the $7,500 federal tax credit. So here's the killer part. Look at that. It's 363-mile range, 4.9 seconds, 0 to 60. This is pretty impressive. This is the mythical $35,000 car with 363 miles of range. Just a few years ago, people said this was impossible. Elon says new Tesla Model 3 version available. And then, so that's the same news here. And the other thing is this ability to now energy boost upgrade. You just pay, I think there's two versions, right? If you want 50 miles, you pay $1,000 or something like that. I actually didn't get the full, I didn't write it up, but do you remember? Because there was a 1,600. Yeah. Do you remember what it is? But go ahead.
Yeah, no, these are, I think filling out the Model 3 lineup is a smart move. You have the whole southern part of the United States. You have other warmer climates where you don't need an all-wheel drive vehicle. You don't need that capability. Even I think a rear-wheel drive Tesla actually does well on the snow, just given the control aspects that they have of an EV. But this is great to just fill out the portfolio. I think the key takeaway, though, is, it's $35K with the tax credit. If you look at the vehicles, the next set of vehicles that Elon talked about on the Q1 earnings call, those are vehicles that I believe that Tesla is designing where they're going to take anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 out of them. If the IRA credit is still there, great. If it's not there, Tesla is going to continue filling out their portfolio, taking that 5 to 7K out. So to the consumers, if the IRA credit, think about it. If the IRA credit for some reason in the middle part of next year were to go away, I think Tesla is readying vehicles that are 5 to 7K less expensive to build, and therefore they can pass that along to the consumers.
Yeah, and then if it's still available, oh my gosh, under 30 at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right, because there's more affordable models coming out. Thank you so much, Jeff. This was great. Breaking news, of course, what happened this weekend. shocking what happened, but we had to kind of talk about how does it impact Tesla. Obviously, it's a bigger issue than just Tesla or the stock, but Okay. Thank you so much, Jeff. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Herbert.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.